I'm Eric Paul Johnson.
And I'm Eric Winsenson.
I'm getting better at talking over that notice from Zoom meeting, recording in progress, although it's still a little distracting. Eventually I'll get over it and I'll be a professional TV doofus.
Yeah, it definitely is distracting. Not as distracting as the black helicopters flying around my apartment right now.
I would think you'd be used to that kind of thing by now, considering your history.
Well, yeah, I've been learning. Well, I did learn something though, that if you're gonna make an aluminum foil hat, you need to make it a tricorn.
Doi.
Yeah, because that way you're also patriotic because Jesus loves America. Therefore, if it's a tricorn hat, you're protected by Jesus, America, and Reynolds all at the same time.
Well, the tricorner, that's it's elements of the a pyramid, which is also good for navigating the energy in while bouncing away the negative energy you don't need, keeping the messages out.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I also wear my Devo energy.
Oh, are we going to go through this again?
What the hell? Everything was working.
We tried to do our podcast episode Tuesday, and it took about 4 or 5 tries and about 40 minutes of fiddling with things before we finally got something we could use because over on his end, things
Yeah,
got.
Windows is giving me.
Get a Mac.
Okay. And here we go again. And I have absolutely no idea why it's cutting out other than Windows.
Well,
Believe me, I did a complete audio test in the last 30 minutes
oh, I'm
to make
sure.
sure everything was working so we wouldn't have dropouts on the Zoomcast.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of comments, but we won't be reading all of them because I think both of us have been pretty busy the last few weeks that we just barely had time to get the podcast recorded. So we're going to do 2 songs this week, which brings up a lot of comments anyway. But first, um, the uh, new YouTube subscriber celebration. We're up to 154 subscribers. What's that? Only 846 until we clear 1,000. Then we can start making what 0.03.5 cents per view from YouTube, and maybe we'll earn $1 per episode to split between the 4 or 5 of us. So, Steve J.W. 1947 and the Three Stooges are also following us on YouTube. And also, we got some fan mail for Madeline from Martin Quibble, who is also new to the show. So Martin Quibble gets a celebration from the racist noisemaker. Okay. Martin wrote, "Please tell me you're still doing What Does Madeline Think? I'm already 10 episodes in, and that bit makes me smile so much." Yeah, still going on, and it should go on until the last episode. Well, until the last song that we talk about. I read it to Madeline, and she was like, "Oh, thank you." Like, "Oh, of course." So,
Yeah, and one good feature of that is you get to hear Madeline's voice change.
yeah, I thought of that when I started doing this. She's what? I think she was 6 when we started, and when we finish in June, she'll be 11, almost 11. She'll be 10. She was born in September 2011. So,
Yeah, her voice is starting to get a little bit deeper and sound more like her mom.
yeah, yes, yes. She's already 8 or 9. She started blossoming, so that's happening way too early. But yeah.
That's why you should buy a shotgun.
Um, as of now, Madeline wants to marry a girl because she thinks boys are icky and she doesn't want the things that go with having a boyfriend. And I'm going to keep pushing that until she's in her 30s. Good. You keep thinking that. Keep doing that.
I'd still buy a shotgun because I've known quite a number of lesbians, and believe me,
It's
most
okay.
of them have to be escorted to their cars because they're
Because they're what?
because her girlfriends are just as crazy as any guy. So
Yeah, I mean, it limits the chance of getting pregnant. Although I
that's
got
true.
this, so
That
this should make short work of anyone. Something fell back there. All right. Anyway, comments. Um, First up is about surrender.
okay, and let's see if we can get through this without it cutting out.
Yeah.
Mark Jealous says, agree with Dr. Troy here, and that this could have been a good fit on Balance of Power. Don't want to be seen as damning with feigned praise. I rather like this. Mike, oh,
No, that's
okay,
yeah.
that was it.
That was it for him. And we got a long comment from Mike Hudson, who I don't know when exactly his episode starts. He joined the expanded episodes. Dono had a house fire which wiped out everything, so he wasn't able to do it for a while. So I had Mike sit in for Don until Don come back. But as usual, I liked Mike Hudson's comments. So I said, "Yeah, you're a permanent member of the podcast now. You're on the expanded episodes with Don and expanded discussions with the two of us here and whatever kind of extras I can think of to add. But you got to pay $2 per episode at Patreon to hear those expanded episodes. So make with the money because I could sure use some now lately." Mike wrote a long comment, so um, Bob is going to sit this one out, and in this case, Bob will represent me. So if I have a comment in the middle of Mike's comment here, Bob will say it for me, because my as much workout as my right hand has gotten through my life, because that's the one I write and play guitar and all that with. Working this puppet gets tired really fast. Mike Hudson. Ever since I first heard this, I've had a hard time accepting that any part of it originated from a New World Record recording sessions. But listening to the stuff with Carl Wayne that was supposed to have been created concurrent with E.L.O. 2, I suppose it's possible. I mean, listen to Jeff's disco single that was sandwiched between Out of the Blue and Discovery. I suppose anything is possible. But I feel pretty confident in saying I bet pretty much all of what we hear in Surrender was recorded just before it was released in the 2000s. There may have been a 1975-76 version of what this evolved from, but I bet we will never hear that one. I feel pretty much the same about Latitude 88 North, and it's supposedly coming from the Out of the Blue sessions. Neither track even remotely resembles anything contained on the albums they are associated with. I agree with Troy that this song wouldn't sound out of place on Balance of Power, although I disagree with Troy's choice of songs it could replace. I'd swap out either Secret Lives, So Serious, or Send It. Well, oh, sorry. I always liked Send It. Not exceptionally proud of that, but I always liked Send It. Where did I leave off? Stop that computer. Auto say. Okay, there we go. Now I can move on. Jeff really drenched the vocals with delay on this song, or as the layman might say, echo. I figure it's digital delay, but it could be an old tape delay. E.L.O. used the Roland Space Echo on several albums in the past, but my money is on one of the several AMS digital units Jeff often talks about having in his studio. It's almost too much delay, but I say that reserving judgment, because if I heard the song with a completely dry vocal, I might be inclined to think, hey, this could use a little, or a lot, of delay on the voice. As to whether that's a harpsichord near the end, I'm not sure either. Could be a very bright sounding piano. But either way, I believe it's a digital instrument, a synth or sampler. And we actually have heard some synthesized harpsichord on a couple of times in E.L.O. songs. First example is Richard's Moog tone on Daybreaker, and one more recently, here is The News. The synth on News is a combo of harpsichord and horns. I may be forgetting some other examples, but I don't recall E.L.O. ever using an actual harpsichord on any song. But Richard played harpsichord on the Move's Blackberry Wave. Of course, that was pre-Jeff Move. Surrender is a good song, but nowhere near as good as any of the other 9 songs that actually made it onto a New World Record. If it had been finished back then, it could have been a good B-side for one of the singles. Yeah, not as good as anything on a New World Record, still pretty good, and it would have made a good B-side.
I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff you'll get from my cousin, who's an actual musician, used
Who's
real
an actual
instruments.
instrument.
Yes, he's an actual musical instrument. He's made records. He's had a band. He made his attempt in a music career. So for the people who say that me and Eric don't really dig deep into the music making and pull out, well, he used an A sharp minor on that downbeat of the tempo change. There's my cousin. He'll pick up the slack for us. So if you're looking for that kind of stuff, $2 per episode, $8 a month, patreon.com, and you'll get his musical insight that's deeper than what a rube like me can provide, who just plays plunk, plunk, plunk on the bass.
It says here that Mike Hudson was actually born in alto bassoon.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he transitioned to a clarinet at some point in his life.
And that's fine.
That's fine. Whatever you identify as, it's completely fine.
No, I'm welcoming of all genders or musical instruments that you identify as. It's all good for me. I just have one rule in life: don't be a dick.
That's true.
Yeah. Your turn, Winston.
I was about to say, are we going to just go ahead and read the monologue from Team America World Police?
Anyway, we can do that different Zoomcast.
We can do that another time we want to be demonetized.
Yeah,
and at the moment, anyway.
Yeah, and when we need to really pad out a Zoomcast, which we don't need to do here.
Yeah. Trevor Raggett says, these last 2 podcasts really underline the different approaches to compiling CD bonus tracks. Interludes was the perfect example of putting out the bits of random magnetic tape that's been swept up from under the furniture in the studio control room. Surrender goes to the other extreme, a really serviceable little song that was never finished or didn't really fit in with the flow of the album. I really like Surrender, probably one of the best of the bonus tracks from the CD reissues. I remember this getting quite a bit of radio play in the UK when the single was released. On the main BBC mainstream AOR channel, clearly as completed, Jeff is in his I Love Del Shannon mode. And I agree that this is much more of a 90s, 2000s production than anything. It would be fascinating to see what actually made it through from all the New World Record sessions. Not an awful lot, or maybe more than we think. Hard to know. My guess is that the little mini guitar solo made it through. I can't see 2000s Jeff using a crunchy tone like that or play a solo with that much abandon in it. Certainly, it's not perfect enough for Mr. Blue Sky. I can certainly convince myself that the vocals and bass are from the original sessions. The bass just feels too bouncy and live to be Jeff's, so I'm calling Kelly on that. And those drums, plain and simple, but with a great feel. Could they be Jeff's original guide drums before getting Bev in? If so, again, it's like he's rubbing our noses in it by showing that he can play with feel when he wants to. Why couldn't he have put that sort of life into the drum tracks of the last 20 years worth of albums? Harpsichord. Yes, there's absolutely a touch of harpsichord in there. And yes, Eric W. is right that playing harpsichord does require a slightly different technique for playing the keys compared to piano. Synth preset 17 versus preset 02. Not so much.
Yeah.
And am I crazy, or do I detect a hint of xylophone under the chorus sections? Or is it a guitar being plucked with some sort of effect added?
I didn't even notice that. I'm gonna have
Yeah, I
to
didn't notice the xylophone.
I'm gonna have to give that a listen again. Although I'm guessing it's probably guitar pluck with some sort of effect on it. Moving on to Daft and Quick, something like that. The Daft and the Quick. That was it.
Quick and the Daft.
Oh, the Quick and the Daft. Okay, I just have Daft listed on my page here. So,
Yep.
Jib Khan, straight out of a Roger Moore fronted Bond film. From the hectic car and motorcycle chase through narrow cobblestone alleyways of a European town to the romantic scene where Bond and shapely girl are silhouetted against a red dawn as they drift down the Nile in a small boat. All condensed and compressed into a beautiful little number. I hadn't thought of that. That's actually pretty damn good. And yeah, it sounds about right.
What is Bond doing? Looks like he's attempting re-entry.
Was that from Moon? That had to be from
That's
Moonraker.
from Moonraker. That's one of the few good things from Moonraker is that last joke.
I haven't
Because
seen.
the movie's over.
I haven't seen Moonraker in 41 years. 1980 when it came on the on TV subscription TV. Um, back in the early 80s. So, but that
Yeah,
sounds like
it's one of the more embarrassing Bond films.
I've heard it was really bad. I was 11 at the time. It had spaceships in it, so I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it did. It had Space Station.
Yeah.
It had Space Marines. Space Patrol, or whatever we're supposed to have now.
See, now I want to see it just to see how bad it is. It sounds like it would be funny bad.
It is watchable, funny bad. It's
Okay.
just embarrassing for a Bond film.
Okay.
At least it doesn't have the line. I thought Christmas only came once a year.
Ah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Moving on.
Moving on. Mike Hudson says, nice instrumental. Sounds a little out of place for being done during the Out of the Blue sessions. I'm not saying it wasn't, however. I'm always suspect about the true origins of these bonus tracks. But I like it. So it doesn't really matter from where it came from.
No, it doesn't. Although it sounds pretty out of the bluey to me.
Yeah. I thought he was going to say nice instrumental, be a shame if something happened to it.
Yeah, like stripped away the strings and just replaced it with a bland bass, guitar, plodding drum. Corey Gomel, thanks for throwing me a bone about throwing a bone. I said something, I quoted Corey Gomel. He said something in the post, with these latest Jeff Lynne albums, how about throwing a fan a bone and doing something that sounds like E.L.O. and not Jeff Lynne solo? So that's the bone I threw Corey.
And Trevor Raggett says, I do love this bonus track, but somehow always forget about it. Maybe it's the silly name. Fair enough. It's a good little pun on the quick and the dead. The misprint on the album is an interesting one. Given it's a work in progress, bonus track Draft works just as well as Daft. Makes you wonder which was the intended name. Track itself is great, and it's a shame it was never finished and made it to the album. It may have been finished off in 2006, but it's pretty clear that was just final polishing. The arrangements have Mr. Clark's fingerprints all over it. Lovely. Lovely 70s E.L.O. string arrangements. I can easily see it sitting as an interlude between two tracks on Out of the Blue, but which ones? Maybe it was planned to be an orchestral section of Concerto for a Rainy Day, but the maximum running time of a single side of vinyl meant it would never fit on? I like to think so. One thing's sure, if Jeff was fiddling with it in 2006, it's a shame he didn't use the 21st century technology in his studio to loop a few sections, seamlessly edit them together, and turn it into a really satisfying 3 or 4 minute track. Such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, although in our expanded episode for this, I wondered if I put out the notion, well, what if this was supposed to be like the overture and finale for the whole album? Because E.L.O. used to do the things where they'd have a little thing at the beginning and then a little thing at the end that sort of bookended the album. And using what technology I have, granted, I don't have Jeff Lynne's, you know, studio editing, massive, rig, get up, all that, just Audacity. I mixed the two. I mixed part of it into Turn to Stone, and then at the end, Wild West Hero fades out, and in comes the other half of Daft. So what it might have sounded like if those were intended to be the again, my head, I just said the word.
Overture and
Yes.
finale.
If those were supposed to be the overture and finale for Out of the Blue. So, but you know, $2 per episode over at Patreon to hear all those extra kind of things. And Aaron Jansen over at our YouTube page, the Electric Light Orchestra channel, or is that podcast channel? Electric Light Orchestra podcast channel. Aaron Jansen said, for the most part, it sounds like something that was recorded in the 70s. Sounds out of the Blue era. Then again, when re-listening, the rhythm section, drums and bass, were probably re-recorded. I don't know if Jeff's playing in the later albums is necessarily the problem. He's got a snare sound on his later work that is big and beefy, but to be honest, gets a little old. Kind of like the electronic drum sounds of the 80s. Yeah, God, I miss Bevan and E.L.O.
That's what he needs to do is he needs to haul in an 80s Fairlight and just program all the drums on that so it has that nice 80s artificial drum sound on all the songs.
As opposed to the genuine Jeff Lynne artificial drum sound.
Exactly. It would have that dull slap that the original fake drums had.
Yeah.
And then while he's at it, he can also bring in some of those 80s synths, completely produce the bass out of it, just drown the bass in the bottom.
Mm. I'm good with that synth stuff in 81 and 83. It lost me in 86 when.
Oh, and the guitar, play all treble, no lower notes, all treble. So the entire, and make sure you mix it all treble, all on the high end, everything on the high end.
In case Jeff is getting like.
Wonderful when groups did that back in the 80s.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yep. Oh, and add some echo so it sounds like you recorded it in an oil drum.
There you go. It's how to make a record.
Oh, then you sound like Asia's Astra album. Okay. Anyway. MJ says, well, perhaps quick could also refer to the shortness of the song. And given the positive review here, agreed. An alternative title could have been The Quick and It's Epic. Yes, I agree with EW about the whale. So that's two of us.
See? Not everybody is bored by the whale.
True.
Yeah.
Nesquik and the Daft.
I like that. Okay, we're going to cut it here because there's a ton of questions about Latitude 88 North. Or not questions, comments. Oh, and I guess that's it. Okay. Yeah, so next week, if nothing gets in the way, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we'll do the replies to Latitude 88 North, and then maybe we'll fit in whatever comments is the next song in line, which I don't know. We'll find out Friday what it is, or listen to last week's episode, and Karen will tell you next week, episode 1, episode number and song title. Yeah. So, okay. All right.
So maybe more bonus tracks from A New World Order. Yes,
no,
I did say
yeah.
On purpose.
I think history has had enough bonus tracks from A New World Order. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is you think we're done here?
I think we're done here. Yeah.